It's time for the Kentucky Derby Regional Report. Thursday, April 6th, exactly 1 month away from the first Saturday in May. Lots of points on the line, 300 points just for the winners alone in the 3 Kentucky Derby preps that we have coming up this weekend. But Matt, let's take a look at the leaderboard, see how things are playing out up until this point. Gervin, off of his nice win in the Louisiana Derby, hits the top of the list with 150 points over Thunder, Snow, and Always Dreamy. Your Florida Derby winner has 100 points. Canavera, third place finish in that race. Top 3 finishers out of the Florida Derby, definite for the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, they're 3, 4, and 5 in the list. State of Honor, second in the Florida Derby. Gervin, even though he won the Risen Star, he won the Louisiana Derby, I think he'll be double-digit odds in the Kentucky Derby. I think he's going to be 10, 12 to 1 shot. Thunder Snow, I don't think they've really determined yet
right?
whether they're coming to the States for the Derby or not.
Well, let's kick things off.
It's our biggest prep Saturday that we have.
And I think some of the most highly anticipated Derby preps. I mean, we will have one more after the Arkansas Derby, April 15th. But let's start here in the West Coast with the Santa Anita Derby, $1 million on the line. And now it seems like it really lands between Doug O'Neill and Bob Baffert. Between the two of them, they have 7 entrants.
Yeah, 4 for O'Neill, 3 for Baffert. And I would think that Iliad is going to be your, I'm talking about Luke, you're going to have 5 or 6 horses. There's not going to be much separation on the board odds-wise between Reach the World, Battle of Midway, Gormley, Iliad, American Anthem. They're all going to be between 7 to 2 and 7 or 8 to 1, I would think. Iliad, I think, will be your slight favorite because his last race was the best last race of anybody in this field because he ran second to a horse who produced the biggest figure that we've had from any 3-year-old so far in 2017. That was Mastery. And Iliad, very, very game, in defeat in this race, ends up running a very good second. I thought the buyer came back 95. This on the heels of a big-time win in the San Vicente going 7/8 on the 12th of February. So I think he's going to be your second choice in this race. I think American Anthem, I think he's the horse that could turn things around.
Bounce back.
Disastrous performance in the Rebel. Lost a shoe during the running of the race. On paper, it seems like he's training well. He's a horse that was #1 on my list going into the Rebel. I look for a bounce back performance from this horse, and then Reach the World's another horse to keep your eye on for Baffert.
I love Reach the World, and I know you have for quite some time.
Yep.
He was off very slowly in his last race behind Battle of Midway, but gained ground with each and every stride. Let's take a look at that backtrack, too. And can you believe this? Jerry Hollendorfer has never won the Santa Anita Derby. He's sending out Battle of Midway, who, of course, did get the best of Reach the World in that last start.
Yeah, they're pretty evenly matched, these two. I think Reach the World might have more upside. I like the pedigree better for Reach the World. They both have really good grass pedigree if things don't work on the main track. I mean, Reach the World is by Tappet out of a Galileo mare.
They've got options.
The dam a half to Asina, who was a great dirt horse and champion distaff performer back in 1998. But I thought Reach the World maybe was a little greener of the two in this race. Maybe got the worst trip of the two in this race. And I love the way he finishes, sticking his neck out late to lose by a neck. So not a lot of difference between these two. I do prefer Reach the World. And he's another horse that appears to be training great for Baffert. Mike Smith will ride. And it doesn't matter who you like in this race. With a field of 13, it's an evenly matched group. You're going to get paid if you can be correct.
Now, this will be the largest field that we've seen in the Santa Anita Derby since 1981, if all 13 go postward. So great betting race there. John Sheriffs obviously has 2 horses as well, in Royal Mo and Gormley.
Really good race.
What happened to Gormley last time out? He ran behind Mastery, a very flat performance for him as well.
It was a mystery. It wasn't a very good performance. We might get some rain out here.
Yes.
By the way, if it rains, we know that American Anthem and Gormley, who threw down over a sloppy racetrack, can handle an off track. So keep an eye on the weather out here in Southern California.
First time since 2016 that we would have an off track. Exaggerated,
wow,
really.
that long ago.
It's been a long time,
I forgot
guys.
about that.
Yeah.
Forgot about that. Yeah.
Let's move on to Lexington, Kentucky.
I'm going to handle this one?
Yeah, I'm going to handle it. You're closer over there. Now, this seems to be, I know they're all highly anticipated, but the most highly anticipated Derby prep, maybe the most contentious in your opinion. What do you make of this field for the $1 million Bluegrass?
Yeah, I mean, all the heavy hitters. McCracken, undefeated. You know, a little filling this left front, but he's doing fine. He's training like a beast. He worked 101 and 2 at Keeneland on Sunday morning. Tappert, who ran second to McCracken in the Sam Davis. Then out of that race, a big-time win for him from Todd Pletcher, one of the literally 10 horses that Pletcher has that are live right now. He won the Tampa Bay Derby, but here's McCracken in the Sam F. Davis. Tappert A lot of people love this performance from him because he was kind of shuffled back a little bit, got out, and ended up running a very good second. But McCracken's never lost. McCracken is undefeated 3 for 3 at Churchill Downs. I love the way Tappert finished this race, and that's why a lot of people liked him going into the Tampa Bay Derby. The thing to me about this race that's very intriguing is the fact there's no speed at all. I mean, McCracken's really good. He comes off the pace. Tappert's a really nice racehorse. He's an off-the-pace type. Yeah, I think the pace is going to be really, really slow in here because even J-Boy's Echo.
Wild Shot?
I think Wild Shot, that makes him very dangerous in here at 15-1. But J-Boy's Echo, you know, we haven't had too many 100-plus buyer speed figure wins, right?
No, very, very few.
We've had two. We've had Mastery and we've had J-Boy's Echo. And, you know, we'll be talking about Cloud Computing here in a moment, who was second in this race. But J-Boy's Echo, this is a pretty stylish win. I know Dale Roman's been very high on this horse, and I love the gradual improvement from J-Boy's Echo. You know, he had a big maiden win. He was okay in the Delta Jackpot. Then he was better in the Withers, and then he does this in the Gotham, winning by 3.5 lengths. Obviously, the pedigree isn't a problem. He's by Mineshaft, former horse of the year out of Menifee mare. Menifee ran second in the Kentucky Derby back in the day. So pedigree is outstanding. He's only raced 5 times.
He went easy in that race, and you wonder, when are these horses going to peak? Because obviously you want their peak performance to be in the first Saturday in May. Yep. That is a big buyer that he put forth, but it was under wraps. It was an easy victory, so I wouldn't expect a bounce.
And he broke his maiden at Keeneland by 5.5 lengths, so he has zero problem with this racetrack.
Well, that was J-Boy's Echo, Dale Romans, Robbie Alvarado in the Island and Nape. Yeah, it's grade 2 bluegrass. Let's go to New York for the Wood Memorial. Nicely done.
There we go.
You've got a thing with the touchscreen. Grade 2 Wood Memorial, which really hasn't been the best stepping stone, actually, to the Kentucky Derby. We have not seen a top 3 performance from the winner of the Wood Memorial since 2003.
Yeah, I mean, a lot goes into that, but that's a long period of time. We've had some horses, some major players, you know, with injury issues going to the Kentucky Derby. Escandarea, Uncle Mo are the 2 big names that come to mind. But sort of like what we talked about in the Sandia Derby, with American Anthem and Gormley being major players in the division and then running poorly in their last races, same can be said for this horse, Irish Warcry. This is a horse, this is the good Irish Warcry. This is Irish Warcry getting the lead, dominating a field, and pulling a big upset. He was 4-1 in this race, and he crushed. And he was bet down. I think he was about 8 or 10-1 in the morning line.
He still looks a little green, too. Looking around a bit, coming down the stretch. Now he levels out.
Then he goes off at even money in the Fountain of Youth, and he gets put away on the front end by your 3rd-place finisher, 3 Rules, and Gunnavera wins from off the pace. Graham Motion saying, hey, for Irish Warcry to be a Derby horse, he has to show the ability to rate. He wants him to rate. So he's got to be thrilled, I would think, with the outside draw for Irish Warcry.
Absolutely.
If he can rate and be effective, he's another horse that gets right back into the mix of things.
And what I love about Graham Motion, he says, you know what? No excuses out of that race. So we have to see that improved performance. Got to follow Graham Motion on Twitter. He's one of the funniest follows ever.
Right.
Just putting that out there.
Right.
Cloud Computing was second in the Gotham behind J-Boy's Echo, who we mentioned earlier, for trainer Chad Brown. Irad Ortiz Jr. will be aboard again. Lightly raced horse. Seems like we still haven't seen his best.
His debut was fantastic. He missed the break. He was shuffled back. That was an impressive length and 3/4 win. It was so impressive that Chad Brown said, hey, let's run him in the Gotham. That maiden win was so good. And his Gotham performance, I mean, nothing wrong with running second, you know, off of just a 6 furlong sprint to your resume and dealing with a horse with much more seasoning in J-Boy's Echo. The buyer came back 96. He's going to get a really good trip in this race. In my opinion, it's another race we're going to have, from an odd standpoint, it's going to be very evenly matched in the Sandia Derby, maybe not quite as much so in the Bluegrass, and McCracken being a heavy favorite. In another race, you're going to have 4 or 5 horses separated by about 3 or 4 points in terms of the odds. I think Cloud Computing will go up as your second choice in this race.
Well, what do we think about Motown? He was the #1 on a lot of people's lists for a while, yours included. What happened in his last race?
A bunch of things. I'm not a big excuse guy, but when you have 3 or 4 of them, if you remember going on the racetrack, he was very hot. He didn't look very good in the warm-ups before his performance at the fairgrounds. He needed the race. He hadn't raced since this big win in the Remsen. He didn't handle the racetrack particularly well. There are about 3 or 4 reasons why he didn't run very well. We know he likes it at Aqueduct, right? That's one of the main reasons why they went back to New York here, because the big race we're showing you his big win, Grade 2 Remsen, at 1 mile and 1/8, and obviously Saturday's race, same track, same distance, 9 furlongs. You know, all these trainers say their horse is doing great. Tony Retro seems to be pretty confident in his chances. I think he's in a good race. You got Javier Castellano to ride. Will he win this race? I don't know. I'm expecting a much better performance from this horse than what he did in the Risen Star.
And lastly, I know we've got the money back on the preps, but I just want to get your thoughts on Battalion Runner for Todd Pletcher, who scratched out of the Florida Derby because it's the same ownership group as Always Dreaming. That was a smart move. Obviously, they took down that grade 1. What do you make of Battalion Runner?
He was in my Derby top 10 list back in January before a lot of people knew about his name at all. So, no, now he's number 2. On my list. He hasn't really done much. I mean, he hasn't raced since the 3rd of February. I think he's the horse to beat in this race. I love, this horse's pedigree by Unbridled Song out of a Tappet mare. I thought his optional 75 win was good, and his maiden win was spectacular. He's a speed horse, but he can sit off the pace a little bit. I think he's probably the horse to beat in a wide-open Wood Memorial.
And Todd Pletcher has been very successful in the Wood Memorial. So that is a look at your Kentucky Derby regional report. Of course, money back special on these prep races. Wood Memorial, Toyota Bluegrass, Santa Anita Derby. If your horse finishes 2nd or 3rd, you will get your win bet back. So an exciting weekend we have ahead, locked and loaded with these Kentucky Derby preps. So that was your Kentucky Derby regional report for Thursday, April 6th.